Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, March the 26th, and I'm having to think really carefully about that because in my head I keep wanting to say May and it's really not May. But look where we're filming! The sun is out, the temperatures are, warming up. We're back in the sunroom. The funny comment is that I was talking to a friend of mine on Thursday night. Thursday was a glorious day. Glorious, 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 warm, sunshiny day. I knew that the sunroom was going to be lovely. I was talking to a friend of mine and I was like going, it's 7:30 and I'm in the sunroom and it's warm. Now, I'm wearing a sweater. I'm not sure I really need the sweater, so I'm also having them out going like, you might have overdressed for this episode. So we'll see how that goes. I'm also having that moment going, I'm feeling it a little later than I was expecting. And you know how we are, at the beginning of summer and the tail end of summer as the sun is adjusting. So I'm having that moment going like, we may have a problem as the sun is just coming a little further this way. So I may end up angling oddly, but we're back in the sunroom. I know. It's the little things in life that really get me excited, I have to say. All right, if you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And as always, if you are a returning viewer, thanks for coming back and participating in this lovely stitching journey that I'm working on. So just wanted to spend a little bit of time on the comments from last week's episode. So thank you to those of you who sent birthday greetings along for my dad. Thank you. Now, a couple of things. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of people thanked me for reading out the numbers for the DMC colors for my Temperature Quaker, which I'm not working on yet, but I've picked my palette. And I did laugh. There was a Lisa B, who had commented, like, do you not realize that calling out numbers while some of us are stitching, because some of us do stitch while we're watching, is practically a criminal activity? I said, hey, it's a little bit annoying, but I did give you warning. And it didn't take 47 minutes, so I don't feel horribly bad, because I did say that I was going to read them out. So you knew the numbers were coming. Anyway, sorry-ish. And then several people commented on the fact that I referred to the Temperature Blanket website. And in fact, I actually got a comment from the Temperature Blanket website, people thanking me for pointing people towards their website. So thank you. I've sadly really enjoyed the Temperature Blanket website. I've told a few more people even in real life about that website. So anyway, one of them found it interesting, one of them not so much, but it doesn't matter. One of you also made a comment about they really liked the idea of doing a baby temperature blanket, but really only doing it from sort of a 9-month period, so a gestational period. And that sounds interesting. It would also cut down on the number of rows, by a quarter, right? So one of the interesting things about temperature blankets is, you have to be careful about what stitch you're using. That's why there are specific patterns around how you're doing this so that your blanket doesn't end up being ginormous. So cutting it down to 9 months, yeah, that would cut it down just that much more to make it more baby-friendly size-ish as opposed to, adult size. Lisa from Lost in Stitches, thank you for your comments. And by the way, sorry, if you're a crocheter, why have you not shown anything on your channel? If you're going to be happy that Cheryl has taken me down a rabbit hole and you're fully supportive of Cheryl on my channel, then the least you can do is talk about your crocheting on yours. Tack it on at the tail end so people who aren't interested in crochet don't have to pay attention. Those of us who are crocheters can pay attention and see what you're doing. See if you add to the rabbit hole. Okay, so in case anybody's worried about Cheryl not being happy about my usage of her name and the tone that I use when I use her name, just in case you're wondering, she left 3 comments on last week's video on a variety of topics. And the one that I'm going to let you know for sure that she's talking about is she loves that she has her own section. As I say, she's not repentant at all. Not in the least bit. Not the slightest. No, nothing. Anywho, Cheryl. And she fully intends on dishing out some payback. Which, hey, payback's totally fair. I can't have anything to say about that because I've used her name in vain for a couple of episodes. Now, the funny thing is I make videos more regularly than she does. So I have more opportunities to use her name. And so she's gonna, when she comes on, she is going to blame me for some of her purchases. And I will fully admit that because she has watched my Flosstube channel, that she has purchased a number of cross-stitch related items because of me. Like Remember November by Marnik, which I don't feel badly about that one because it is really, really a lovely design. And I think mine looks lovely and hers looks lovely. And she came to stitching at the library. She told me she was looking for a design that had some certain elements. So I happened to send her an email with some links to some patterns on Etsy. She said she was looking for something. The fact that I thought I found something that fit the bill, it's not like I can't be blamed for that. I'm trying to assist in solving a problem. She's going to blame me for it probably in her next video. I'm totally fine with it. We are totally fine teasing each other. As I say, she's not repentant in the slightest, and she's planning on using my name in vain in her next Flosstube, which I'm totally fine with. So, anyway. Yeah. Cheryl. Anyway. I forgot to write down the name, but somebody left a comment, which I love, 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 where they said, so that wooden rack that I showed so that I could stitch on those 2-inch self-covering buttons with flat backs and put them on the thingy. Thank you for informing me as to what that is. It is a Scrabble tile rack, and you can get them on Amazon. So I love the comment because I went, okay, now I know where to get them. Now, I then promptly went on to Amazon and was looking at some options, and there was one, and I looked at it, I went, man, I way overpaid for that thing. And it was really funny because it had a really economical price until it wasn't a Prime shipping thing, and it was like $54 for shipping, and I was just like, okay, no, wait. So I still feel like my price per rack was not too bad for what I got, but in case anybody is looking for one and they don't have a local needlework shop, or the needlework shop didn't go to Nashville or doesn't have them or whatever, if you're looking for something like that to prop up these buttons, it is a Scrabble tile rack. You can find them on Amazon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry I forgot to write down your name, but thank you so much for providing that comment, because if I need any more, now I know where to go. So thank you for the comment. See, this is why we have a community. Second of all, somebody thanked me for showing the weekend bag that I was using for my crochet project, because they were looking for something for their yarn project. I don't remember whether it was specifically crochet or knitting. And they were like, ooh, I have a bag like that. That's a really great idea. See, I saved her money. Sometimes I save people money. Not as much as others, but anyway. And then Mihaela, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, she was asking me, she predominantly works on Aida. She does not like linen because the fibers in linen are not even. And I refer a lot to Lugana, and she wanted to know whether Lugana was an even weave fabric. And the answer is yes. Lugana is an even weave. Both the vertical threads as well as the horizontal threads are the same size. So yes, that's why I tend to work on Lugana far more than I do on linen, because I like an even weave as well. The other fabric name that is also an even weave is Jobelan. So Lugana is a Zweigart fabric. Jobelan is a Witchelt fabric. So depending on where you are and who you're ordering from, but both Lugana and Jobelan are even weave fabrics. They do have a polyester component, you know, effectively rayon, that are part of them, which is why they take the dyes so differently. But I will confirm for you that both Lugana and Jobelan are even weaves. So yes, it sounds really horrible. So get yourself a piece of that and see if you like that better than linen, because I do, which is why I also work on Verdal. And then Rowie, thank you so much for your comment. She was commenting that on last week's video there were a lot of commercials. Now, I don't put any commercials into my videos. That's done by YouTube. But now that you've told me that there were an unusually large number of them, I'm going to go do some trekking around to see if I can't figure out how to see if I can have some control over the number of ads. So yes, feel free to put the continue to put down in the comments down below if you are finding that there's an unusually large number of ads showing up. So because I do have over 1,000 subscribers, technically I can monetize the channel, which I think would give me some control. I haven't monetized it because that's not my goal. But if I need to monetize it so that I can get control of the ads and limit the number of ads, I'm more than happy to do that, because I like you, don't love the ads. So yeah, so let me know if it's a problem on this one, and if it crops up. Happy to get those comments. And like I said, I'm gonna have to go do some research to see if I can figure out how to adjust or get control over that. All right, I've got piles both on this side and this side, so it's gonna be a bit. And like last week, so the funny thing is, I thought in my head I'd mapped out what the topics for the March floss tubes were going to be, and then didn't write them down, even though I'm supposed to write them down when I get the ideas and put it on a post-it note in my book, but I didn't. So this is the second week in a row where we're just talking. I've lost my topic that I thought I was going to talk about this week. It's going to be fine. This video is going to be long enough, I'm sure, so I think not having a topic may shorten it down a bit. So with that, let's just get into what I stitched on this week. This has not been my most successful week. We'll talk about it as we go through the projects. But I did, on Sunday, I did continue to work on my Little House Needleworks Spring ABCs, which is my my ABC sampler that I'm working on so far in 2023. This is because of Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy and how successful Sampler of Stitches was. So, so I got exactly the progress that I was expecting to get. I feel like I need, can you see? It's hard to see. So I did get all of the bird done, including the yellow, which is hard to see in the camera, as well as the nest done. So my bird is done. This is not completely done up here because I need to do some leaves. And so tonight's project, so technically O is not exactly complete because there is one leaf that comes up here. But my goal for tonight is to get all of the leaves done, which I think takes me, by the end of tonight's stitching, will be Q. I am heading out for dinner tonight, which means this is going to get up late and 27 other things, so who knows how well this is going to go. But I think I only have 4, maybe 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves, and I will be done all the way down to Q, which again, still ahead of schedule, making good progress. And we are at that point in time where I'm kind of looking at this saying, you know, we're at Q. There's only nine letters left to go in the alphabet. So we are 2/3 of the way through, well, we'll be at 2/3 of the way through this project when I'm done those leaves. So it will be time to start kitting up my next ABC project, because I'm still planning on doing an ABC thing on Sundays. So happy with my progress on this. I am stitching this on a 28 count star sapphire Jobelan, and I'm using my own color palette, which is in the notes section down below if you're wanting to know what those numbers are. All right, so there's that. Yeah, I don't have a really good place to put this. All right, so then next, of course, is my Lent project, which is from the Stoney Creek February. I look at it every week. I don't know why that is. The Stoney Creek February 2006 magazine. If you have back magazines, this was released when they ran out of back issues. This was released as a leaflet. It is leaflet 155. This is the spring bell pull, which is my Lent piece with the goal of accomplishing 1 letter every week. I'm behind. I'm behind on this. Remember how I said last week I really needed to make sure, because N is a big one, that I needed to be on my stitch counts every day. I'm not. I didn't do a good job. So I did finish off the letter I. So finished off. There were some colors I still had left to do in here, and clearly had to do the back stitching on the butterfly for that. Here's where I'm at on N. I'm behind. I'm behind. I've probably got about 650 stitches left to go on this, plus the back stitching, and this is a very wordy letter, so I'm behind. I'm behind. It's okay. There's a little bit of give in my Lent timeline. So, like, the fact that I'm behind doesn't mean that I'm not going to reach my objective, because G is a lighter stitch, but I shouldn't count on that to make up the time, just in case. You just never know when things are going to go off the rails. So I'm looking at this going like, is there no top to the N in that purple? No, it just ends up there. Yes, so I think I have all of the letter N done. Clearly there's a flower that goes up here. There's a big daffodil down here, and you know, yellow is not my favorite, so that's going in last. But I commented on this last week, and I found it this week where I really am starting to get a little burned out on this project, so I'm really feeling the Lent stitch. I did show my parents last week. I was over at my parents picking up some stuff, and that's what I don't have. I knew I forgot something. I have 2 things that I picked up from my parents that I was going to show, but I don't have them here, so you'll see them next week. They're not going anywhere. But anyway, so I hauled it out. It was really quite funny because I showed it to my mom, and then she made sure that my dad came in and looked at it, and she told him all about my Lent stitch and that it's 1 block a week, and she thought it was lovely. So I'm behind on my N. I need to really crack down on myself, and then once N is done, I'm going to remind myself that while I'm getting burnt out on this project, there's only 1 letter left to go, which means I still think I'm on track that by Easter Sunday, this project will be complete. So that is positive. But I really am coming up with things to distract me, to avoid working on my Lent stitch. I am working on it, and I have worked on it every day, but I have not necessarily gotten my daily stitch count in, which is where the problem is. So I need to knuckle down and follow my plan so I can get this goal accomplished. But it's coming along. I will be happy when it's done. All right. I failed entirely on my March Quaker. Failed entirely. I have gotten exactly 0 stitches into the March Quaker this entire week. None. Not one length of thread has gone into that thing. Failed, 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 failed. So March Quaker is not going to be done in March, so we need to carry that over into April, which is fine. It will be fine. This is a stitching goal. I am not curing cancer, although if I could figure that out, that would be good too. But I did, yesterday was the 25th, and on the 25th of every month, I have another project that I'm supposed to be working on, and I did work on it and got my goal accomplished for that. It was only one day so I could get my goal accomplished. So that's my Little Bits of Christmas by the Drawn Thread. I always get this wrong. I don't remember whether it's 28 or 32 count, so check the notes below. But it is Picture This Plus Serene Lugana. And the goal for this is every 25th of the month is I need to get 1 block done. There are 12 blocks that I'm planning on putting into this. So this was December, January, February. So here's my March 25th block. Essentially completed at the end of those branches, besides the leaves, there are supposed to be white beads that go on there. Okay, technically I pulled out the beads. They're not white. I'm going to make them white. I think the called for is Mill Hill Beads 40123, and I think I'm going to change them to like 40479. I'm going to make them white just because it's me. And I'm not going to do the beading till the end, but there are about 25 beads to go into this block alone. It'll be fine. We'll catch up at the end. Now the interesting thing for this is that the next block I'm going to do, so there's going to be 4 rows. This is row 3, row 2. There's going to be 1 above it and 1 below it. So I know this was obvious. Mary was the next important one. The next block I'm going to work on, because it's the one that I know, is going to be the wreath. So that's great. But then there are 2 blocks over here, 2 blocks over here, and 3 along the bottom. And I'm not sure the order that what those are going to be. In case anybody wants to wade in, what's going to go in there is edge forward. So the red house, the stockings, the cardinal, Santa, the white house, and then the words peace and joy are the ones that are going to go in to fill all of those spots. But I don't necessarily have the order worked out in my head yet. So the Christmas was a given, then the word Mary, and then the wreath above that. So that's why I'm okay for like my April 25th stitch, because I know what that's going to be. But my May 25th stitch, we're going to have to be into the like what goes where area. So I haven't entirely decided. So if anybody's got strong thoughts, opinions, feel free to throw those down into the comments section down below. But I'm at least on this little project, I'm keeping on track for this one. So I sat down on Saturday night, I got my block done. Which is why I didn't work on my thing, and I did get some stitching into my Lent piece. So, but we're behind. We're behind on a couple of projects. So maybe in the next few days I can catch up, sort of. We'll see how it goes. But there's that. So that is my stitching. Sorry, that stays here. This goes over here. That's my stitching for this week. See, we're doing okay. 25 minutes in. Let's talk about some stashquisitions. right, so I went to the dollar store this week, and while we were at Stitching at the Library, Cheryl, that one, because we're not at the Cheryl portion of the program, we're at the Cheryl portion of the program. Cheryl was showing one of her bags, and I was like, yeah, that was a good one. And there was someone else who was like, ooh, where did you get that from? And it's from the dollar store. So while I was at the dollar store, I was like, they had some, so just some of these, you know, I just got a couple of extra project bags. Why? Because they'll differentiate, you know, between this and another project bag. I'm in Canada, so the dollar store is $1.25, not $1. Exchange, inflation, take whatever you want with it. So I picked up 2 of those. Well, I was at the dollar store because we talked about, you know, I was maybe going to go to IKEA and look for a jar. Well, I was at the dollar store. They had a jar. I think this is bigger than what I need, but it was $1.25 as well. And I went, spend the $1.25, bring it home. I then, one of the things that I was running around doing this last week was doing a bunch of drop-offs of donations at a couple of different places. And one of them is like, well, you know, sometimes you have to do a drop-off and do a wander through the store. And I did walk out with one thing. So it was just, it's these 2 jars. Now, they're still taped together. I spent $1 on these. So, you know, if I decide that this is too big for my buttons, you know, I can start with a smaller one, and maybe it will grow, but we're anyway. So I spent $2.25, and I've got 3 jars now. So I'm all good on the jar front. The funny thing is, while I was at the thrift store or Goodwill, they actually had a series. They had 3 of these there, and they were selling the set of 3 for $4, which is really funny because I'd already been. And they actually had the dollar store stickers on the bottom of the jar that said that they were $1.25 each. So I thought it was hilarious that the Goodwill store was selling them 3 for $4 when if you'd bought them at the dollar store, it would have been $3.75. Anyway, it was totally fine. I didn't want a set of 3. I only wanted 1, so I was better off getting it at the dollar store. I did make a stop at the Stitching Corner in Cochrane. So it was funny. I was looking at, there was a project that I was looking at, and I was looking for some beads, and it called for Magnifica beads, which are now discontinued, and I can't get them anymore. So they graciously looked the stuff up because they sell a lot of delicate beads and other kinds of beads. And so they looked it up and they figured out what the delicate bead equivalent was. And I kind of looked at them and went, this was the time before, and I looked and said, oh, do I really need them now? It was like, you know, and really, like, as soon as I got home, I went, are you out of your mind? Like, just get them now. So when I was back this time, I got them. So I picked up, you know, there's some gold delicate beads for a project. These were expensive, I'll say that for them, but technically it's cheaper than getting the Magnificas. And then I got this Jabco button, which I need for one of my Cricut collection ones. This is getting challenging, and this is a note why I should, you know, follow my own guidance. I got the Cricut collection chart and didn't go after the beads right away, or the buttons right away. So the owl buttons from Jabco have been discontinued. And so this is technically, the called for button size was a medium, which you can't get anymore. But this is the small size, which is fine. Small is better than large. At least I have an owl for that chart, so I can, it'll be fine. It will work for my purposes, but note to self. The interesting thing is the other beads, the other buttons for that particular chart, they had ordered them. They'd actually had a conversation with someone from Just Another Button Company. The other buttons were available, but in the last shipment they got from them, they weren't in there. So I might be on the hunt for some other buttons as well. And then the last thing I got, so this was off of the Tempting Tangles website. This is Quakers in Scandinavia. Now, this is a mystery sal. We all know I don't do well with a mystery. And in case anybody out there is going, well, how do you have that if it's a mystery sal? It's because it's a mystery sal that comes out in 16 parts, and they're up to part 13. So it's not quite so much a mystery anymore. That's when I like it. Now, I have all the other Quakers. Quakers in Holland, Quakers in England, Quakers in Scotland, Quakers in, you know, they suck me in every time with the Quakers in fill in, you know, the location. So, you know, Quakers in Scandinavia, I got my, because I'm on their email, their newsletter list, and they said, by the way, you know, this is coming to a close. And I, of course, you know, went and looked at it and went, ooh, yeah. I might have to change a couple of the colors. Sorry, the sunlight's actually washing it out, but it's warm. Anywho, so this is by Tempting Tangles. I will put a link to this in the note section down below in case you're interested. I always like to get, to the extent that it's a Tempting Tangles where they've run it as a sal, I always try to buy it when it is a sal because it's about half the price. Once they're done the sal, it goes up to the regular price for a chart. So I think this was $9 US, and usually their patterns sort of, once they're through the sal, and then you wait a period of time and then they get released as like, you know, so I get this in 16 different pieces, which fine. And then after they wait a while, they release it like just as one chart, but at usually twice the price. So I always like to get mine when they're running them as a sal. So that's Quakers in Scandinavia by Tempting Tangles. This is going to be a short video. Isn't that nice? And now we are up to the, announcements. I have not made it down to the library yet. I'm running out of time. We're getting to the end of March, so hopefully I'm going to get my act together so I can go down and see that Korean embroidery at the Central Library downtown. The next Stitching at the Library is on April the 15th from 9:30 to 12:30 at the Signal Hill Library. If you are in the Greater Calgary area and you want to come, stop by, drop in, stay for the 3 hours, whatever, you're more than welcome. We've got lots of room there. If you're wanting to come stitch with us, that would be great. And those are my announcements, which means we're into the new segment, which is Crocheting Because of Cheryl. So the reason why I did not get anything done on my March Quaker Cheryl, it's because of Cheryl. It has nothing to do with my lack of being able to, you know, decide what I'm going to be doing. It's Cheryl's fault. So I worked a little more on my lap gan. So we're getting to a good size because it's only a lap gan. And it was funny because I was catching up with a friend of mine and they were like, oh, well, how big is it going to be? And I just laughed because I held it up and kind of went, well, put it down on my lap and went, so I've got about this much left to go. But we're getting to that point where I need to make a decision. So I think I am going to put a border on it. So I have to go check on a couple of options for borders. But now you get to wade in about what color you think the border should be. I think it's going to be a solid color, which means the options are white, gray, or aqua. I was leaning towards gray, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't ask me why. But yes, a border around all four sides, which is why I'm getting to that part where it's like, you just need to be a little careful because I need to decide what the border is going to be, which will determine how big the border is going to be. So then I will be able to assess whether I'm done doing the back and forth rows. But this is coming up close to a finish. So maybe a few more rows and then a border, and then my lapgan that is entirely Cheryl's fault will be completed. Which, yes. Anyway, it actually goes not too badly. I call it aqua, so it's a little funny against this like minty green of the background because it doesn't clash horribly. But anyway, that wasn't the point. We all know that's not how I got suckered into this. Cheryl. Crocheting because of Cheryl. And then, so last week I showed some wool, some yarn that I had bought, because like I've been very clear. This lapgan plus the next two projects plus a temperature blanket are entirely Cheryl's fault. Any project beyond that, that will become my fault. But lapgan plus two plus temperature blanket, those are Cheryl's faults. So I showed that I had bought some yarn last week. It was the gray, white, purple, and navy. Now, it's a different weight of yarn for the project, blah, 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 blah. And from the YouTube crocheting videos I've watched, there's one in particular, in case you're wondering, the one that I've watched quite a bit on is Daisy Farm Crafts. I quite like her videos. I think she's very effective around how she talks about her projects and how she shows the different crochet stitches. So I quite like hers, not to mention several of her projects that she's got on there. But she's really hammered home how important it is that you do a gauge swatch before you start in on your project. So I was, you know, looking at those lovely 4 balls of yarn and appreciating the colors and going, oh, I like the concept of the project. So I decided I should probably, you know, I was going to do my swatch and see how my gauge was and how things were working out, and sort of following some of the cautionary notes in the pattern. So that's what I did. Don't laugh too hard. Oops, here. Here's here's my gauge swatch. Yeah, I did the gauge swatch. I did have to do it on a different crochet size. See, it's getting blown out by the sunlight, but it's sunlight. We're in the sunroom, and I'm very excited about the sunroom. Anyway, so I started on the gray, right? And it's X number of rows of gray, and then, I got to a point where it's like, I'm only a few rows away from needing like the purple. Right, so then I did the purple rows, and then I was like, well, you should just finish off the purple, and then you should probably get the gray started again. It's snow pile, like, yeah. Anyway, so I got sucked down in the thing, and then you get partway through the gray again. You're like, we're so close to putting in the navy. Now I won't tell you exactly what this is, but the crocheting is only one step to this pattern. There's a whole separate step that happens once you're done the crocheting on this to turn this into the final piece. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing how this looks, because I think I like my color choices for this. So this is why nothing happened on my March Quaker. Anywho, I think this project is going to be lovely. This one's simple, 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 because it's all double crochets, straight up, like straight rows of double crochet, double crochet, double crochet. So it's going to be very interesting at the end. See, this is the problem, is now I'm kind of looking forward to, getting all of this done. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot left to go on this before we get to like the final step to finish this thing off. This is Cheryl's Fault. And that's what I've got for you this week. Like I say, there were 2 other things I was supposed to show you because I picked them up from my mom. One of them I will tell you as we were looking at it, and she was like, I was like, are you keeping that? She's like, no, it's yours if you want. I'm like, oh, I want it. So you'll laugh when you see it, because I was like, oh no, that I care about, that I really want. So the last question I'm going to put up for commentary is, there are a lot of handmade doilies that my maternal grandmother and on my mother's side, so her mother, her grandmother, and her great-grandmothers have doilies that they've made. Now, the interesting thing is, Mom and I were looking at them and we were like going, we're not really sure what to do with them. And I am having these moments, like, so even when I was in the Goodwill store where I got my jars, I found this lovely vase. It was lovely. I looked at it, I picked it up, it was $4, like, really, you know. And then I stood there in the aisle and I went, how are you going to use this? Where are you going to put it? How are you going to store it if it's not in use? And I couldn't come up with any good answers to those questions. And so I left it at the Goodwill store, which was, for me, was the correct answer. So I used that same process when I was at my parents' and we were looking at the doilies, where I'm just like I have that moment. I was like, yes, my grandmother made this doily, or my great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother, because there were, it's like we go back, there's a couple of generations worth of doilies there. But I was looking at my mom, I'm like, I don't really know what to do with it. Like, I don't really, like, I'm not really a put the doily on the end table. And, you know, like, I know that there were some doilies that my grandmother used in her house because she put them under, you know, under the base of a lamp on an end table to protect the wood table. But I don't really... So if anybody's got really good ideas with what to do with the doilies, can you put those down in the comment section down below? Even the, like, just give up on the doilies, it'll be fine. You'll be okay. I came home with 2. One that my maternal grandmother did, and one that her mother had done. So grandmother and great-grandmother. So I came home with 2, but there's more there anyway. If you've got any great suggestions, would love to hear them. Throw them in the comment section down below. And that's what I've got for you. Now, it's funny that I'm going to say this. I'm heading out for dinner tonight, so I don't know when this is going to get up, because, you know, the later that dinner goes, the later the whole processing thing goes, and 27 things happen once we get past Sunday. So I'm afraid that this is going to get up a little bit late, which is of no use to you with me saying it on the video, because you will know when the video got up. It was funny, I was talking to a friend of mine who watches the Flosstube channel, and so in the other room, it really bothers her that the chair is not centered between those 2 picture frames that you can see above my head. The whole reason is that those pictures are centered across the length of that wall. The chair is irrelevant. And you probably don't remember, but in last week's video, I had to stand up to get something, and she said she was at home watching it. She said, I could just, like, rush in there while you're not there, and I could move the chair. So as funny as you may think it is when I tell you that I talk to the Flosstube videos, which I really, truly do. I really do talk to the Flosstube videos. I have not quite gotten to the point where I felt like I could actually enter into the videos and adjust things. So I thought that was fairly entertaining. Love to hear from you in the comment section down below. Love having the conversation. So if you've got any questions for me, topics you'd like me to address, thoughts, comments, quandaries, love to hear from you. Love having the conversation. And with that, we'll wrap it up. So as always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine, as well as a variety of people in a variety of situations around the world that have been occurring over the past week. You know my line, safety first, safety first, safety first. I always think of, there was one safety coordinator at one of the companies I used to work for. He would be so happy that I talk about safety so much, just because he was, yeah, he would really appreciate it. But it really is really important. So I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're finding time to do some stitching, and that your stitching is bringing you enjoyment, peace, mental relief, whatever you need it to be. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.